Hi folks, Travis Fox here with foxoptic.com. Today I'm going to be sharing a recipe for deer blocks with you that my wife and I came up with. We've been running the new Tactacam Reveal X camera some, and the SK will be coming out here before long. We're still running our reveals from last year also. I didn't have a new one actually here to even show you at the moment. This is just a box off of one of mine. I threw it in there just so you could kind of get an idea of what they look like, but they've been selling really well. They've been super popular. So one of the things we've been doing to try to get some footage and show off how them cameras work is we've been running some of these bait blocks on our property, and don't worry about, we're not hunting over them or anything like that. Be honest with you, we're not even going to hunt this property at all this year, but we are using it to test the cameras and a few other things. But long story short, we've come up with a block that has been working quite well for us. We were buying these at the feed store. We don't actually sell these. I don't really have any affiliation with any of these, but we are going to put this together in a little video, try to do a comparison, see what they like the best. But at this point, they seem to be liking the blocks that we're building the best, and I would attribute that, and I'll talk about that here in a minute, but I think it's just because they don't have quite as much salt in them and maybe our ingredients. I mean, we have the luxury of putting what we want in there, but these things work good. They're available at most of your feed stores, and they're going to help bring things in for your cameras and that. But let's jump over here and I'll show you what we've been doing, what we've came up with. So the ingredients for our block are this right here is a poultry laying crumble, they'll call it, and basically it's just a high crude protein feed that they use for chickens. We've been doing just some whole corn, and then over here we've got just some whole oats, and then here we have this is a beet pulp shreds with molasses. It's just ground up beet pulp, and then down here is just more. This we're using more as a binder than anything, and it's sweet, so it's going to attract them. But it's a dried molasses, and then over here our last kind of grain ingredient is these black oil sunflower seeds, and I'll go over the exact amounts here in just a minute with you and kind of show you how we're mixing it up. To finish out, we're doing almost a cup of sugar, excuse me, and then I'm doing 2 tablespoons of salt. I do just about 2 tablespoons less than a cup of sugar so I can put them together in my cup, and then oil, we're doing 1 cup of oil. The oil is primarily just, so if it's getting wet and that, it's got a little bit of a coating on there. So, and then the other main binder we're using is corn, just regular old pancake syrup. So I'm using 24 ounces of pancake syrup to make one of these large blocks, and we're doing the block in a box like this lined with parchment paper, and I'll show you that process here in a minute. But what makes it really nice is it's kind of a no stir, easy way of doing it. You want to get all done baking it, you can kind of press down on it, form it into that thing, let it cool overnight into, like I like to let them cool at least 24 hours, and they'll set up. Basically what you'll end up with is a pretty tough, about 16 to 20 pound granola bar that will last pretty good out there, and they really like it. Not just the deer, I've had turkeys on it, I've had fox, coyote, of course raccoons and possums are going to get on anything you put out there, but everything seems to be liking it really well, and it's sure bringing a lot of activity into the cameras. So let's get started here and I'll show you how to put these together. Effectively, we're going to start off the recipe that I've come up with. So this is basically a 20-ounce cup. Now you could adjust the recipe to suit your needs based on how you're going to form your blocks, and there are a multitude of different ways to do this. I'm doing it like this because I can bake this box and all in the oven. I don't even have to take it out of that box. That box, as long as I put a sheet pan under it and one on top of it to make sure that as the oven is cycling and the burners are coming on and off, it's not going to get overexposed to too high a temperature. I'm baking them at 350, which that box can take that all day long. I haven't had any problem with the glue or anything breaking down. I put a small strip of tape across the bottom. Hasn't given me any problems. So That's how I've been doing it. The parchment paper keeps it from sticking to the box, makes it really nice because you can roll it over and the whole block will come out. To be honest, you can reuse the parchment paper several times. So back to how we're doing it. So I'm just using this cup and I've come up with what it takes to get our block to come out right. So we're doing 4 parts of this chicken layer. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're doing 2 parts of whole kernel corn. So there's 1 and 2. I'm doing 1 thing of oats, 1 of the beet pulp, 4 of the dried molasses, and then 1 of the black oil sunflower seeds. All right, so once we've got that, the only other dry ingredient we've got is the salt and sugar, which I've already got it pre-measured here. Again, like I said, basically a cup of sugar and 2 tablespoons of salt. I go just enough under to fit them 2 tablespoons of salt in there. And then, so now we're just dry ingredients. I'm gonna pour them back and forth a few times and we'll get that mixed up a little bit. This part here, it mixes pretty fast and pretty easy. If you just kind of roll it back and forth, I've got it sitting down there on that cooler so I don't have to bend over so much. But it also helps, I've got a spoon here, if you just kind of mix that up really good. And keep rolling her back and forth a little bit here. And then we're gonna add the wet ingredients here in a minute and really mix it, continue to mix it. So as that happens, it'll just keep getting more and more and more incorporated. But initially, you wanna get it pretty mixed around here on the dry ingredient side first. And I just keep rolling these buckets back and forth a few times until I think the consistency of the mix is looking pretty good. So I think I'm getting there right now. Okay, so once we've done that, the next ingredient I'm going to put in there is going to be the oil. So I usually just split them about like that. Put me a little well down in that middle, kind of work myself a little well down in there. And then we'll take this, put about half the oil in this one, and the other half of the oil in this one. The oil will actually distribute around in it pretty good. So we'll just kind of use, if you put it half in each bucket, and use that spoon to kind of get it distributed around in there. Works pretty well. Obviously, just kind of repeat the same procedure over here. Might dump them around a time or two. Kind of keep working that around, get that oil on there. And then once you're pretty happy with that, the next thing I'm going to do is start putting in my syrup. And the syrup, this is going to take just a little bit. I recommend take a little time here. 24 ounces. This is in a Mrs. Butterworth container, but to be honest, it's just cheap pancake syrup. This was the great value from Walmart. I just put it in here so it would be pre-measured for me to the 24 ounces because theirs comes in a little bit bigger bottle than that, but I've used Aldi's and theirs in 24 ounce too. So you just pour that in there and then a little bit of your feed over top of that. Kind of let that get mixed around. A little bit more of that syrup. And then once I get it like that, I like to work it back and forth. And this is the part that actually is going to take you just a little bit of time. You're gonna wanna, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of time, but I'll probably speed through this process on the video, just for the simple fact that it's gonna take me 4 or 5 minutes and you're not gonna wanna watch the whole thing. So I'm gonna continue to do that and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so we got that mixed up pretty good. So over here, what I've got, this is just this is a 10 by 8 by 8 box. It's just a box that we happen to have in stock that we don't use a lot of, and so I pulled that one out. It makes a nice block, and the batch that we're doing here is going to end up filling that just about perfect. Normally I don't tape my parchment paper back like that, but usually I have Tina, she's running the camera. Normally I have her to help me hold the parchment paper back. Once you get your stuff put in there, I mean, it will hold that back for you, so taping it normally not a necessity. So to get started, I put a couple of scoops in there. Once I get them kind of in there and get that, you know, mixing it a little bit as I go, then I'll take my spoon and kind of work that down. You don't want to pack it real tight because we're going to bake it next, and when it's baking, I mean, you don't want that super duper tight because you won't ever get the center completely done. But just kind of keep working it in there. If I've got this right, it should come out to just about exactly perfect, a box full. And then once it warms up, as it bakes, it's going to shrink down just a little bit. I mean, the molasses is going to kind of reliquefy a little bit. That's going to help shrink it down some. And then when I get all done, and I'll show you this once we take it out and make it into the final product. So there's the end of it. You can see I've got, you know, my box come out just right here. When we get all done, we're going to turn around, and I've got another one of these that I made here a little bit ago. What I'm going to do is put these on a pan just like this. So I've got this pan right here, and we're going to put this one on there just like that. And this is the other one I made up previously. First thing I'm going to need to do, obviously, pull this tapes will be off of there. Don't necessarily need that tape on there. So once I've got that like that, then what I'm going to do when I bake it, I'm going to put this second pan is going to go right over the top of it like that. And effectively what that's going to do, I usually don't pop off like that. I've usually got them backwards here. Hang on just a second. Let me switch them around, because usually I put this pan on the bottom. Evidently that pan's not heavy enough to hold them down. But normally I've got them in that aluminum pan like that, and then I run this heavier one up on top there like that. And when I stick them in the oven, what the point of that is as the burner's coming on top and bottom to keep the oven temperature up and warm it up, this is going to get pretty close to that top burner, and this is going to shield the heat away from them boxes. Same way with the pan on the bottom. So at this point, I'm going to take that in there and I'm going to throw it in the oven at 350 degrees. I'm going to bake it for 1 hour at the 30-minute mark. I'm going to mix it up a little bit, but you don't have to get, I really haven't found that to be too much of a necessity with these. but I'll mix it maybe just a little bit. Sometimes I don't even bother to mix it. And then when it's all done, we'll finish pressing it. We'll let it set for 24 hours, and I'll show you the end result. Basically what we're going to end up with again is like a great big, pretty tough granola bar that's going to have those ingredients in it. So let's take her in the house and we'll pop them in the oven, and then we'll continue to show you the rest of the process. Okay, so here we are in my house. I've got my oven warmed up to 350 degrees. Again, as you can see, I got one pan on top, one pan on bottom. Basically, we're just gonna slide her in there. It ain't gonna hurt if that cardboard hits the sides or anything. At least in mine, it ain't gonna matter. I just, like I said, I don't want it hitting that burner up at the top or the bottom. That will be cycling on. That's the point of that metal on top and bottom, is just to protect it from that. So basically, I'm gonna set a timer on it, 1 hour. So well, there we go. I'll be back with you. Okay folks, we've got our deer block out of the oven now. So the next step in the process, we're going to tamp that thing down. It's actually set itself down pretty good, but it's still pretty loose. So we're going to work that down. I just use this just a little 1x. I'm just tamping that down with. Once I get her worked down pretty good, be really careful because it's still good and hot. I will tell you this, I didn't bother stirring it at the midway. I've got one of them little thermocouple temperature probes, and I checked it, and the center wasn't quite hot enough, so I ended up giving it hour 20 minutes, and got it good and hot in the middle. So now what we're gonna do, and then I didn't bother to stir it. I just went ahead and did an hour 20 total on them. So now here's what we're gonna do. You can see where that settled a bunch because of the temperature and that. We're gonna turn around and we're gonna fold this parchment paper in, and then I've got just a little piece of cardboard that I've made up for this, and we're just gonna push down on that. You want to be careful when you're tamping it and pushing down on that. Don't bulge these sides out too much, because I've been known to get a little carried away with that. But then once you get it down in there and tamped good, effectively all I'm going to do, I'm going to take one of these blocks. You can do anything you want in there for some weight, and I'm just going to set that in there. That'll give that some weight. I'm going to let that set overnight. We'll be back and show you how that turns out once it's had a chance to set up. All right, so we've had our block setting out here overnight. It's been just a little longer than overnight, but we're going to bring one up here and show you how this has worked out for us. So again, I just had these are 20-pound deer blocks that I just had setting on top of there for the weight. So we'll pull them off and set them over here. And we'll pull one of these out and I'll show you basically. So this is going to be the end result here, just in case I get something out there. So we had them lined in that parchment paper again. You can see down in there, and they've set up pretty well now. So typically all I've got to do to get these to come out is just turn them over, and that parchment paper will allow them to slip out. If you're kind of careful with them, you can typically reuse the box, the parchment paper, the whole 9 yards. You'll see that parchment paper won't stick at all. So you can just kind of take it off. And what you end up with is basically, like I explained to you before, just a pretty nice, what I'm going to call a granola bar. And I think that works out really well in comparison to some of these factory blocks, because it's a little easier for them to get the stuff off. So you are going to go through them a little quicker, but they also seem to like eating them a little better. But that's kind of what we plan on doing here in this video. So we're going to follow this video up with another video of us taking, we actually did 2 more here last night and then this one. So we did a double batch of them, of doubles. So we've got enough to put out with each one of these blocks. So the next video we do in this series, we're going to take one of these blocks that we've made out, put it next to one of these factory blocks. We'll be testing the Tactacam Reveal X cameras, and we'll have at each location, we'll have one of our homemade blocks and a variation of the factory blocks, and we'll tell which ones are which, and we'll just get an idea of what they actually do prefer. So the next video will be us actually setting those out, and then we'll have a follow-up video after they've been out a week or two showing actual footage that we're able to collect and what they've, how they've reacted on the different blocks and that. So, essentially, this is what our block's going to look like when you get done. I think they turn out pretty nice. If you have any questions on any of the stuff we sell, again, I'm Travis Fox. We run a company called foxoptic.com. We sell digital CMOS, night and day vision stuff. So like these are Sightmark Wraith, the new 4K series devices. They're going to allow you not only to be able to hunt day or night, but you can film your hunts in the daytime without the IR lights on or attached. A lot of states you can use those as a daytime scope, so pretty slick. We also sell these a variety of different tripod systems, and then the big thing that we actually sell also is thermal night vision equipment and things like that, plus the Tactacam Reveal X game cameras, as well as their point of view camera systems. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you would consider us in the future if you're looking for any of this type of stuff. Be sure to check us out on the web, www.foxoptic.com. Or you can call us toll free, 877-806-2977. Thanks for watching and have a great day.